Hi, I'm Mike Wilkins with Nutritionalizing Cancer. You've just clicked on the presentation, How to Maintain a Healthy Nutritional Lifestyle. In this presentation, I hope to give you some pointers on how to do just that. If you like what you see here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get more of it when we post our videos up on YouTube. Thanks for watching and stick with us. I am a 2-time cancer survivor. I had head and neck cancer. I also had liver cancer, and I survived both of those. The second time I got cancer, I dove in and tried to figure out how to help myself beat the cancer, and on top of what the medical profession was trying to do to help me. And that worked out very well for me. All the changes that I made, going on a plant-based lifestyle, becoming a plant-based chef, and learning how to cook for myself, I was able to have a profound impact on my recovery from cancer. You can reach my website at nutritionalizingcancer.com. You can also see videos that I've prepared on different topics regarding a healthy nutritional lifestyle at Nutritionalizing Cancer channel on YouTube. And then you can also email me at nutritionalizingcancer@gmail.com. This presentation will take about 20 to 25 minutes. So let's roll into it. Well, how do you maintain your investment? Well, it's a lot like having a new car. You bring that new car home, it's all shiny and new, you're proud of it. You want to keep doing the things that it takes to maintain that investment. And that includes all of these, everything from changing the oil to wash and wax. But what happens over the long term is that eventually we find that some of those things become difficult to keep doing. Either life gets in the way, you have kids, you have to deal with them, or you have to take the car over to someplace that's far away and it's difficult to schedule an appointment. So that new car starts to look a little bit like an old car. And if you don't maintain it and keep it up, eventually it starts looking pretty long in the tooth. It won't run, may not even start, and it ends up sitting around. So in a lot of ways, there's some similarities there to how people treat their bodies. If they don't put good fuel into it, if they don't maintain it, if you don't do the things like exercise, eat the right foods, you set yourself up for problems down the road in terms of chronic illness like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease. The keys here that I'm going to outline are health concerns and specifically nutritionally things you should avoid. Things like sugar, processed food, excessive amounts of protein, and excessive amounts of sodium. Concerning exercise level, you should do what your physical limitations will let you do and do appropriate exercise. But get out there and exercise. It's good for you, and you'll see some more about that later. As far as nutritional habits are concerned, we're going to talk about the grocery store and going and shopping properly. We're going to talk about food selection and finally food prep. The first thing I want to talk about is sugar. When you talk about sugar, saccharide is actually the term for sugar. And the first thing we're going to look at is glucose. Glucose is essentially the fuel for the body. It's known as dextrose or grape sugar. Galactose is milk sugar and fructose is fruit sugar. Fruit sugar or fructose in excessive amounts is not processed well by the liver, and it's broken down and stored as fat. Refined white sugar or sucrose we're all familiar with. That's been around for a long time. Brown sugar. Brown sugar is white sugar with a little bit of molasses added to it. Raw sugar. Raw sugar is processed and boiled down, made into a crystalline form, and it doesn't retain much in the way of minerals or vitamins either. Aspartame. Aspartame is an artificial sweetener, and when it's broken down by the body, one of the byproducts is methanol. And as far as methanol is concerned, it is something that one physician termed might be implicated as a seizure trigger. Again, it's not something that you want to have in high concentrations. Agave nectar. Agave nectar is about 80% fructose, and if you're using a lot of that, it gets broken down into fat, and so it's contributing to the problem you're trying to prevent. High fructose corn syrup, same thing. It has a high amount of fructose in it, and if you're eating a lot of fructose, that gets broken down by the liver and turned into fat because it can't be utilized right away as sugar like glucose can. Rapadura. Rapadura is the cane juice that's processed when the sugar cane is harvested, and it is broken down to the point of its crystalline form. A lot of the minerals and vitamins, again, are gone out of it, and it's known as sucanat. Splenda, or sucralose, is what is termed as a sugar alcohol. And if we look at Splenda, what's interesting about that is that it's about 400 to 700 times sweeter than sugar. And for a lot of people, it raises their insulin and blood sugar levels when it's consumed. It may also disrupt the bacteria in your gut, causing problems there. And the safety of it in high heat is also in question. So you really can't cook to any large degree with that. Truvia is something that's touted as a stevia product, but there's very little stevia in there. When it's processed, it is processed with a sugar alcohol known as erythritol, and it actually comes from the corn cellulose or birch cellulose. And if it's corn cellulose, then again you have another concern because you're wondering about genetically modified food. Purvia is a stevia product. Again, it has very little of the stevia remaining in it by the time it's processed. It's got cellulose and dextrose in it as well. So this is an artificial sweetener like some of the others that, especially in high concentrations, you want to avoid, because a lot of this stuff that, especially artificial sweeteners that are touted as being great for you because they have 0 calories or that kind of thing, are actually not beneficial to you at all because they can cause you some problems. So let's look at some healthy alternatives for sugar. It's best to stick with things like organic green stevia, xylitol, raw honey, pure maple syrup, and or coconut sugar. Stevia, for instance, is if it's green stevia, there's almost no processing that takes place. If it's pure white stevia, it is processed to some degree. However, the data that they've done studying even that doesn't seem to show that there are too many problems as far as it's concerned. In fact, there may even be some health benefits associated with it. Maple syrup. Maple syrup is not processed to any great degree, and it retains a lot of the phytonutrients. Coconut sugar. Coconut sugar is produced from the sap that is released when the coconut plants are harvested. It shows up in a crystalline form. It almost looks like brown sugar. It has a low glycemic index, so it's a good substitute as well. Xylitol is called a sugar alcohol, but it's neither. It's not a sugar or an alcohol. It's made from corn or birch cellulose. So you want to be, if it's corn cellulose, you want to be concerned about that substance being genetically modified. But it doesn't get a quick insulin response and a blood sugar spike like a lot of the other sweeteners do. And then, last but not least, honey. Honey has a fair amount of fructose in it, so it is going to show some of that will be converted to fat. But again, we're talking not about using these things in large amounts. You should not use any sweetening in large amounts. Now, it's just not healthy. but in small amounts, some of these may be better choices than some of the ones that are not as good for you. What about processed food? Well, as far as processed food is concerned, there's a number of concerns. Sodium. Most of the sodium that is a problem for Americans comes from processed food, not from the stuff from our salt shaker on our table in our kitchen. And so you want to be concerned about what's in the food that you're buying. Read the labels. If you look at this little chart here, you can see that the processed food has way more sodium than things like plain pasta, fresh tomatoes versus canned tomato soup, cucumbers versus dill pickles, salmon versus canned salmon. So you see, when this stuff is highly processed, it's got a lot more salt in it. And so that's something you want to be concerned with. The ratio of salt in a product that you buy on the label should be 1-to-1 with the number of calories in the product. So the next thing we're going to look at is saturated fats. And when we look at the saturated fats, one of the things that probably we want to be more concerned about than anything else is trans fats. And trans fats are made by exposing vegetable oils to high heats, hydrogen gas, and metal catalysts. And that changes the nature of them, and those trans fats can be harmful to us as well. So you want to stay away from those. The ingredients you need to avoid in processed food. There's a big long list here, and it's too long for me to get into, but just realize that there's a lot of stuff here that can be found in processed food. Convenience foods. Convenience foods are just that. They're a convenience. They're not for nutrition. And don't be fooled out there. Companies that make food for you, for the most part, are not about your health. They're about their pocketbooks and how can they get you to eat as much of their food as possible. These processed foods or convenient foods are going to have a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, artificial ingredients, and things like that will turn on your taste buds and get you to eat as much of it as possible. And the lack of nutrition in these foods, as we alluded to earlier, can lead to things like hypertension, heart disease, osteoporosis, poor nutrition, which can lead to kidney disease and other things that can be a huge problem. And as a lot of Americans are experiencing now, already are. Sugar, we talked about that. Again, diabetes is the thing that comes up when we think about sugar. And then fiber. Most Americans don't have much fiber in their diets. On a good day, they might get 15 grams when they need to be somewhere between 20 and 30 grams of fiber every day in their diet. So things you want to avoid, and I know a lot of people, this is going to go, well, I love that stuff. But deli meat, highly processed. Bacon, highly processed. Hot dogs, sausages, all highly processed, all have a lot of things that you really don't need to have in your diet. Sodas and sweetened beverages, you're getting a lot of that artificial sweetener in these things. And soda it has no nutritional value. So water, non-dairy milk, smoothies, juices that are not processed are better for you. Quick meals, convenience foods, again, things that you can pop in the microwave or you pull out of the freezer and nuke. They're usually not very good for you. And then commercially baked goods. They usually have a lot of fats and sugar, that sort of thing. So what are some of the healthier options? Well, frozen veggies and fruits. We use frozen broccoli quite a bit in different things like stir fry when we're making stir fry. We use frozen fruit to make smoothies. So they're good options for those types of things and can save you a fair amount of time in making some of these substances. Canned beans, low cost, and they're actually high in fiber and protein. Yogurt has a lot of protein. It's also a good source of calcium, probiotics, that kind of thing. So it's a good product to have on hand as well. Packaged nuts and nut butters, protein, healthy fats come from these things. Popcorn, as long as it's non-GMO and doesn't have a lot of butter and salt on it. Jarred or canned versus canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes and jarred tomatoes, if they don't have a lot of salt, do contain a lot of lycopene, and that's a substance that's very healthy for you. Whole grain bread, crackers, and pasta. As long as these things are whole grain, you're getting some nutrition from them, and they're a much healthier option than some of the others that are just processed. And then bottled water and salsa are great because you need to stay hydrated when you are trying to optimize your nutrition. So what about protein? That's the question that everybody seems to ask, is where do you get your protein from if you're not eating as much, for instance, meat and that kind of thing? Well, as it turns out, the World Health Organization actually supports a statement that shows that it's really only necessary to have about 5% protein in your diet for us to function at an optimal level. So if you're getting 15 or 20% protein, you're actually working against yourself. And there are numerous studies that show that. There's even some studies that they've done with athletes that showed when they decreased the protein in their diet, their performance went up by quite a margin. So that's kind of your protein myth. It makes you scratch your head. Every plant that you eat has protein in it. And if you look at the picture of the gorilla earlier, all he eats is plants. So where does he get his protein from? From the plants. And all of the proteins combining themselves together in the different plants and vegetables that you eat end up making all the things that the body can't make on its own. So it's a good source. Sulforaphane. I'm going to talk a little bit about sulforaphane here in response to food prep. Now, sulforaphane is an agent that's found in a lot of cruciferous vegetables and like broccoli, for instance. So if you're making a dish with broccoli or some of the other vegetables like maybe peppers, that kind of thing, you want to chop them up ahead of time so that you activate the sulforaphane before you actually start to cook it. And I don't mean immediately ahead of time, I mean like maybe 20 minutes ahead of time. So it's a good idea when you come home from the grocery store, if you're buying a lot of produce, to prep it and store it properly so that you get as maximum benefit from the stuff that you're eating. Sulforaphane has been shown to do things like slow aging, stop inflammation, fight cancer. It protects your brain, your heart. It also detoxifies by reacting with pesticides. It keeps you thin, reverses diabetes. It can lower your cholesterol and treat depression and anxiety. Well, what's not to like on this list? This is a great list of good things. The 12 best foods to reverse the aging process are these right here. And broccoli is number 1 and 2. So what are the benefits of regular exercise? Well, it improves your mood. It's good for your muscles and bones, makes them stronger and helps with that. It helps you control your weight. It increases your energy level, reduces the risk of chronic disease. It can be beneficial to the health of your skin. Actually, regular exercise protects your brain and your memory. You get better relaxation and sleep when you exercise. It's been shown in studies to reduce pain and even chronic pain in individuals who have that type of situation. and it also boosts your sex drive. So talk to these guys about what's appropriate for you and get out there and exercise. So what about grocery shopping? Well, there's a list of places here that carry healthy products. Some of them are mainstream, and in some of these places you have to look harder than others to find some of the organic and less processed options, but they are there. And even some of the chains are getting better about carrying healthy options these days that are not processed or even plant-based, if that's what you're looking for. So what do we put in our grocery cart? Well, one of the things that you can do to help yourself is use the Environmental Working Guide apps. And those apps are things like the Healthy Living Guide. The Healthy Living Guide is an app that you can use to scan the products by the barcode with your phone. And if they've evaluated those products, they'll pop up on your phone and tell you what's actually in them and as far as being good or bad for you. The other way to look them up is to type them into the search bar in the app on your phone. If, for instance, the barcode scanner isn't working or doesn't scan the barcode, and you can find them that way. One of the other apps that they created was the Dirty Dozen or Clean 15 app. And this app deals with the amount of pesticides in produce, things like strawberries and cherries, apples, peppers, potatoes, that kind of thing. So what you can do is look at the Dirty Dozen list, and the things that are on the Dirty Dozen list, don't buy those things unless they're organic and non-GMO. And then the Clean 15, you can literally feel safe about buying those products because the amount of residual chemicals or pesticides in those things is extremely low, if there is any at all. And then there's the Non-GMO Project app, and that helps you determine whether a product is genetically modified or not. Usually you can assume if you see their label on the product that it has been verified by the Non-GMO Project, and it's okay. But this app will let you scan those products as well and see whether they're non-GMO. So what do you want to do when you shop? You want to shop at places that carry healthy, whole food products. Like this picture on the right, there's a lot of fruits and vegetables and all that kind of thing. Farmers Market is a good one. But again, there you have to ask questions because a lot of the people that sell products there buy them from commercial wholesalers and sell them at the farmers market. Buy hormone-free and antibiotic-free meat and chicken. That's the best way to do it. And the stuff that is USDA verified is free of antibiotics and hormones. And I want to mention here that dairy is a good thing to avoid. It has a lot of protein in it, and when you're getting more protein than you need and more fat than you need from eating a lot of milk, it's probably better to use non-dairy milk. You should avoid dairy and drink non-dairy milk, like almond milk, rice milk, soy milk, those types of things that don't have high fat and a high degree of protein that can cause you issues down the road. So grocery shopping. A lot of foods come up in grocery shopping that have claims that they're light, low-fat, natural, organic, gluten-free, but you still have to look at the labels and look at the ingredients to make sure that whatever the claim is that they're trying to sell you on is actually something healthy. Now, I'm not saying that none of the things out there are healthy. There are lots of healthy products out there that are claiming organic, natural, whole grain, okay? But just be diligent about reading labels and looking at what's in them. And if there's stuff in there that you don't recognize, or it has more than 5 ingredients, it's a pretty good bet that it's processed or has something in there that you shouldn't be consuming. So we went over a bunch of keys to a healthier lifestyle, like things like avoiding sugar, avoiding high degrees of processed foods, avoiding excessive protein and excessive sodium, your exercise level, using good, appropriate exercise and knowing your physical limitations when you do exercise. We looked at nutritional habits, and we talked about grocery shopping, food selection, and a little bit about food prep. So I hope that you find some of this information helpful. If you like this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We enjoy making this stuff for you, and hope that it helps you maintain a healthier lifestyle. In summary, just let me say that if you eat the right amount of nutritional foods, your chances of staying healthy are mightily increased. You want to eat nutrient-dense foods. Unhealthy processed foods, fast foods, fried foods that have a high amount of calories are not something you want to have in your lifestyle. Energy and depression. Having a poor diet and eating junk food can lead to a lack of energy, depression, malnutrition, and eventually chronic disease. So again, here you look at what we were just talking about. Inadequate nutritional intake may increase your chances of developing chronic disease later in your life. So if you like this information, like I said, please subscribe to our channel. We'll be bringing out more information about different topics and different things that you can use, different tools, recipes, that kind of thing. You can visit our YouTube channel and subscribe there, and you'll, every time we produce something, you'll get a hit on that. Or go to our website, and a lot of that information will be on the blog there. Or take a look at the Facebook page. Sometimes we put stuff up there as well. Thank you for watching, and as I always say, please remember to eat healthy.